Good morning. It is the 10th of December 2025, 15 days to Christmas, 21 days until the end of the year. This is Morning Cafe. How hot is your coffee this morning? My name is Ann Odida. Karibu sana.
My name is Linda Lela. Karibu sana. It's good to have you this morning as we smell your coffee as well as smell the coffee in the studio.
All right. Being the 10th of December, it's Human Rights Day. And if you do remember, the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence culminates today. And of course, the theme for this year was Unite and TFGBV, that is Technology Facilitated Gender-Based Violence. Today, the focus shines on each and every individual as we try to just press and stress on the importance of taking care of each other. Of course, as we focus on the theme End TFGBV, stop bullying.
Of course, again, I mean, basically the 16 days have been largely about digital violence, which is very common and is actually perpetrated in most of the girls because, I mean, it's in a world where we all are in the digital space, and therefore, even as it culminates, even as we come to, the close of this, it's important that you're reminded to take care of yourself as you take care of the other person.
All right, let's take a look at the local dailies, and we'll start off Taifa Leo. Ruto aendea mamilioni mlimani.
The Daily Nation, Ruto ministers to lead 2027 poll campaigns.
All right. The Standard killing the Mara.
This is a story that we've had. And also the Star, new bill stops out of court settlement for sexual offenders.
All right. People Daily, Restless Nation. And finally,
the Business Daily, Vodacom to recoup a Safaricom upfront dividend in 3 years.
All right.
Well, the State of the Nation this morning, Fwamba NC Fwamba, political analyst, Arnold Maliba, Progress Plus Alliance leader, and as well Meshach Odede, political commentator. It's all about the politics and the current affairs.
All right. After that, we'll be having a conversation on access to pension for MSMEs and informal workers. Can they benefit from pension? And CEO of Octagon Africa, Kenya, Davis Ongira, will be here for us to have this conversation. This Friday will be Jamhuri Day, and the theme will be centered on tourism, wildlife, and MICE, that is meetings, incentives, and exhibitions. The CEO of Kenya Tourism Board cancelled this interview, but we'll be having Norbert Tala, that is the Director General of Tourism Regulatory Authority, to talk about everything tourism with regard to Jamhuri Day this Friday. Tuvuke border, and we'll start off in Uganda. This is the new vision. 250,000 more jobs at the Electoral Commission, of course, ahead of elections in January, that is next month. They say polling officers have 3 days to apply. This story has been captured on page 8. Kama kawaida, the new vision is yellow. Museveni pledges more roads in Kienjonjo. Yuko hapa akiendeleza kampeni zake kule Uganda. Businessman arrested over ritual killings, another story on page 10. On the other side, of course, other presidential candidates have been given a spot here. Chagulanyi, Mafabi, Muntu, Wu voters are also beefing up on their campaigns. And why Namayingo is leading in teenage pregnancy. Kule juu EDCL probe must go on. And Nankabirwa insists, and that's the new vision.
And the Daily Monitor, the biggest story, accountability. The continued crackdown on opposition politicians during campaign rallies has put security forces in sharp focus as a cocktail of uniformed and plainclothes operatives take a center stage. A story captured on page 4 and 5. It's a question of brutality, the security in eye of the storm. And about 6 students jailed over TikTok. TikTok on Museveni Muhonzi, as well as the other side. We have a boy who's 16 dies after beating at NUP Gulu rally. This is unfortunate. And on top, of course, we have what to expect from Health Pact with Uganda U.S. envoy. It's interesting to note that a majority of countries are now on that space where they are having, special, government-to-government activities with the United States. What does it mean? We have seen also Tanzania is in that space. Coming back down, Changulanyi says 450 supporters are arrested. That is, of course, even as they prepare for the election come January. And how good Food harvests have kept inflation in check. That is on the lowest beat, captured on page 13 extensively as to that. I see what it is that they have on the cartoon edition. The lizard, he is too young to appreciate the chief fighter. Of course, what it is that you're talking about, a 6 student jailed over talk on Museveni. Well, that's what we have on the Daily Monitor.
All right, that's as far as Uganda is concerned. Tuvuke border to Bongo. This is Mwananchi. Shughuli za simama siku ya uhuru kule Tanzania ilikuwa jana. Biashara, shughuli nyingine za umma zafungwa, wananchi wakisalia majumbani. Ukimya mitaani watawala, ulinzi waimarishwa na vilevile wasio na vitambulisho warejeshwa watokako. Kulingana na mkazi wa Magomeni, amenukuliwa hapa akisema sijaona mtu anayehangaika kutafuta mahitaji kwa sababu maandalizi yalifanyika. Kingine, mtandao upo, haujakutwa kama siku ile ya Oktoba tarehe 29, haujakatwa radha. Hivyo mtu hawezi kuteseka. Kuna picha hapa katika ukurasa wa mbele wa gazeti hili, wanasema picha mbalimbali zikionyesha mitaa ambayo kwa kawaida huwa na pilika nyingi ikiwa kimya hapo jana, kufuatia wito wa serikali kuwataka wananchi kusalia majumbani kujiepusha na maandamano hapo jana. Vidokezo zaidi, Chadema ilivyopitishwa kwenye tanuri la moto, ni habari katika ukurasa wa 10 wa gazeti hili. Ni mwaka huu umekuwa mgumu kwa Chadema kutokana na mashambulizi makali ya ndani na nje kilichoyapata, jambo ambalo wachambuzi wa siasa wanaeleza kuwa wamepitishwa kwenye tanuri la moto. As you all know, the Chadema party leader Tundu Lissu has been behind bars for a very long time, and they were not able to participate in the October 29 general election in Tanzania. Hasira za Kamchape zilivyosababisha mauaji kule Kigoma ni habari nyingine katika ukurasa wa 4, na vilevile kule chini kabisa, sababu nchi za Afrika Magharibi kutawaliwa na mapinduzi ni habari nyingine katika ukurasa wa 13. On the top strip, mazungumzo ya Samia na Marekani yaibua hoja ya masilahi ya taifa. Hii ni gazeti la Mwananchi. Tukisalia kule Bongo,
and of course, the Citizen present yet absent when our phones take over social events. That's basically a story that is captured right on top. I have not come to the biggest story on page 5 extensively. Reminder that, of course, the phones basically and the social media are literally taking away our social lives as a people. It's important that we stay woke. And of course, in the Business Daily, the question of the economy Tanzania at 64. How the private sector unlocked the impossible. They are largely talking about just how much vibrant the private sector is becoming down there. So it's extensively captured on page 8. And now the biggest story on the Citizen is that quiet under fear. What is traditionally a day of celebration, patriotic parades and family gatherings on December the 9th instead became one marked by empty streets, usually quiet bus terminals and a heightened security presence. Basically speaking out to what it is that Odida has earlier mentioned on, that is the celebrations of the Independence Day in Tanzania that were marked with a lot of silence upon that declaration by government that, of course, the people should stay indoors, and of course fearing the question of maandamano, something that has been challenged. And Tanzania at 64, leaders' role in economic transformation pretty much faces of the presidents, or the former presidents, the ones that have passed on from the time of Mwinyi coming to the time of Nyerere, of course, Mkapa, and all of them all the way to Samia Suluhu. Missed moment why East Africa chose independence over federation. That is on the lowest strip of the Citizen.
All right, that's as far as the local dailies and regional dailies are concerned, and we'll be back to take a look at the local dailies in depth. Kwanza, tuangalie hali ya anga inakaa vipi, and we start off in Narok this morning. It's 13 degrees, feels like it. Clear skies with periodic clouds in Narok, highs of 26 degrees today. Precipitation 0%. This 26 degrees will persist just up to Friday, but it will drop into the weekend by 2 degrees. It will be 24 degrees. The weatherman has predicted that there will be some drought in Mandera, which will be mostly affected. Today it's 25 degrees. This morning as you speak, feels like 27. It's a cloudy day in Mandera today, highs of 35 degrees. Precipitation in Mandera 10%, no chances of rain. This weather will go high tomorrow and Friday to 36 degrees, and it will drop again to 35 by Saturday. Tuangalie if Diani is holiday weather. Well, it is 26 degrees as we speak. Feels like 29 this morning. Highs of 30 degrees. So it's a very hot day in Diani. Precipitation 20%. Wanasema itanyesha kidogo, but early morning. But then this is the weather throughout into next week.
Okay.
Weather in Homa Bay. Rain likely around 1 p.m. 19 degrees this morning, feels like 24. It's a mostly cloudy day. This is Homa Bay. Highs of 27 degrees. Precipitation in Homa Bay today, 10%. Okay, mvua ni kidogo sana today in Homa Bay, but tomorrow they're saying it will rain heavily, 40% precipitation tomorrow, and Friday there will be thunderstorms at 90%. This will be heavy rainfall in Homa Bay on Friday. Tuangalie Embu.
Okay.
Not yet. Okay.
There you go.
Embu, it's 16 degrees this morning, feels like it. Clear skies with periodic clouds. Highs of 25 degrees today. Precipitation in Embu 0%, nothing much. Friday it will rain, 30% precipitation, so expect rain on Friday in Embu. And finally,
Nairobi.
14 degrees this morning, feels like 15. It's a cloudy day in Nairobi. Highs of 26 degrees today. Precipitation 0%, nothing to show for it. But Friday, they say it will rain, and it will rain 40% on Friday. Up until next week on Thursday, Nairobi will be experiencing rainfall. Now it's 12 minutes. We need the rain, yeah?
We need the rain you think so?
I do.
Well, it's important.
It's a bit, what is it called? Vumbi imejaa Nairobi.
Right.
12 minutes past 6 a.m. Hali traffic Nairobi. Muthaiga interchange building up slowly. Yesterday at this time of the day, it was very clear the spot. But as you can see, it's already building up. Hapa tunaweza sema ni matatu, but nothing to worry about. If you go way back north of Thika Road, looking good. Yesterday there was a bit of snarl up around this area. Today it looks good, so nothing much to worry about. Outer Ring Road looking clear this morning as of 6:13 a.m. As we can see, if we go way back to Jogoo Road, looking good. Mamalisi, Komarok area.
Notorious, but
Kangundo Road.
Kangundo Road.
Right.
Yeah.
This is always a trouble spot somewhere here, but as you can see this morning, it looks good. So perfect time to leave the house for people coming from that other side of town. I want us to take a look at
Jogoo Road.
Jogoo Road,
looks
right.
like there's a bit of a lump, but not so bad as you would expect with Jogoo Road.
Right. Kitu kidogo tu hapo. Landis Road, getting into town, building up slowly as well. Tunaweza sema ni traders or people that are traveling. Railways bus station thereabout. Machakos bus station around that area, building up slowly. If we go back to this other side, this is Ngong Road. Nothing much. Hapo tu matatu tunaweza sema mnapitana hapo, but not much to report. If we go way back to
Tanga Road, Lavington, those sides is clear.
It's clear, even Wayaki Way, nothing much. So that's the traffic situation. 14 minutes past 6 a.m. Let's have the quote of the day.
No one else lives in your shoes, so walk your journey with boldness. Your truth is valid even if misunderstood.
Right, let's come back and take a look at the local dailies in there. All right, and once again we start off with Taifa Leo. Ruto aende mamilioni mlimani. Wanasema kwamba washirika wa Rais William Ruto katika eneo la Mlima Kenya wamebuni mpango kabambe unaolenga kuhakikisha atapata angalau kura milioni 2 kumwezesha kurejea Ikulu katika uchaguzi wa mwaka 2027. Mpango huo unahusisha kugawa Mlima Kenya katika makundi kadhaa ya wapiga kura ili kuzuia ushawishi wa muungano wa upinzani katika eneo hilo. Wanasema kwamba wapanga mikakati wa rais walenga kuzoa kura nyingi eneo hilo alikopata asilimia 87 ambalo kwa sasa limempa kisogo. Habari kamili katika ukurasa wa pili wa gazeti hili. Of course, this is a story that is still making headlines and I'm sure you will talk about it and the state of the nation.
Talk about it. And speaking of what we'll talk about, certainly the lower bit speaks of so much of politics. UDA, ODM warukana ndoa ikififia. Hilo ni jambo ambalo tutakuwa tunazungumzia. Je, this unity will it hold? Wanapozungumzia unity ya opposition pia itakuwa ni bora kujua kama broad based bado itashikilia kama inavyofaa. UDA yasema haitagawana maeneo ya vyama vingine tanzu au chama cha ODM. Na pia tutakuwa tunazungumzia Sonko sasa rejea na chama kipya. Mike Sonko atangaza kurejea siasani baada ya kusajili chama kipya ambacho ni NEDP. Je, itakuwa ni jinsi gani ambavyo itamsaidia labda kupenetrate back into politics? Hilo ni jambo ambalo tutakuwa tunazungumzia. Nafikiri kwa state of the nation hilo ambalo tutazungumzia.
Vidokezo zaidi katika ukurasa mbele kule chini. Wenye hoteli waalikwa katika Savo. Of course, once again, Jamhuri Day celebration will be centering on tourism, and it says rais afichua hoteli 5 za kifahari ambapo watalii watalipia kima cha hadi dola 1,000 kwa siku. Na kule Tanzania polisi wafurika barabarani. Serikali ya Rais Suluhu ilizima sherehe ya maadhimisho ya siku ya uhuru Tanzania hapo jana ikihofia ghasia. Masuala ya spoti pia the top strip of Taifa Leo kule juu kabisa. Gozi la wazito Real na City hii leo. Ataki zatarajiwa kulipuka ugani Bernabeu. Mechi ya ligi ya UEFA. That's Taifa Leo.
And the Daily Nation, the first story. Courts have declined to sanction the CS's doubling in partisan poll campaigns, where Ruto ministers are expected to lead 2027 poll campaigns, led by the recent victory. That is the game plan. And victory in 7 parliamentary by-elections. President William Ruto has tasked cabinet secretaries to take charge of his re-election campaigns in their respective regions in a move that is likely to wrong foot the opposition. And speaking of which is one thing that we'll be discussing, this as of course what is expected in terms of the laws of the land, the constitution and all that, and being reminded that sometime that is in 2022 and prior to 2022 there was a lot of complaints as to why President Uhuru was allowing for his ministers to campaign coming from this quarter, the other side of Jubilee then. But it is interesting to see that of course the president now is taking the same direction. In Tanzania
lockdown subdues Independence Day protests. We've talked about it on Taifa Leo. A deserted street in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania yesterday after police blocked anti-government protests. This photo here shows that. Or on the side, stylish maternity for the festive season. MPs back an extra 5 billion shillings for teachers promotions. Another story on page 6. And state indicted over worsening human rights violations. Today is Human Rights Day across the globe.
So page 3 of the Daily Nation.
All right. The Standard killing the Mara. Once again, the Standard shines the spotlight. And the Mara they did on Monday. And this time they say vanishing wilderness. The Masai Mara, indisputably Kenya's crown jewel, is facing its most serious assault in decades. A surge of land grabs, poisoned wildlife, blocked migration corridors, and bitter ownership battles are slowly choking this global tourism magnet. Predators are being killed, habitats carved up, and communities pushed into violent protests as powerful individuals move to seize chunks of land at the heart of the reserve. And with court rulings handing control of prime territory to private interest in toxic chemicals, wiping out lions and hyenas, the future of the Mara hangs in the balance. This story has been captured on page 4 and 5. They say 4.3 billion shillings is the amount Narok County collected in park fees in 2023. 55% of tourist facilities lacked impact assessment reports. And they say 50% facilities built within 30 meters of riparian land, contributing to environmental destruction. They've given us very good coverage here on the front page of the disputed Ol Kiombo Ranch, of course, in the Mara, where, of course, a bit of the Ritz-Carlton Hotel has been built, which is, of course, something of great concern. That has ruffled some feathers. This is the only story captured on the front page of the Standard. Tukiangalia ndani kidogo what they're saying, they're talking matters education, how KJCR results will be a far cry from past exam celebrations, and candidates may never know their final marks and results to be released tomorrow. So KJCR results will be released tomorrow. And schools will also not know their ranking nationally or within counties.
Another story that will be of interest is the fact that you speak about Human Rights Day and that KNHCR warns of rising cases of rights abuse. I think that also is critical, and it's one of the things that we'll be touching on, especially now that most of, let's just talk about the country, is in that political heated space. And of course, they say this abuses are largely instigated by the government.
On the back page, Slot has no clue whether rebel Salah has played last Reds game. Egyptian forward missed yesterday's Champions League match against Inter, and he has scored 250 times for Liverpool since signing from Roma in 2017. Matters Sports, that's as far as the Standard is concerned this morning.
The Star this morning, the big story: offenders negotiate privately with victims' families to avoid a trial. And they're talking about new bill that stops out-of-court settlement for sexual offenses. I think that is a very important conversation that is up, because we've seen so many times there's always that gentleman's agreement, community agreement, especially when these violations are conducted. And therefore, it's important that the perpetrators get to face the law. Then it becomes easier for justice to be served. Away from it, auditor exposes rot in bursary kitty for poor kids in court encounters. That's a story captured on page 4 and 5. The Auditor General always releasing this report. So the biggest question would be, what do they do in terms of making sure that we have sanity back, or is just a report and it ends at that? And of course, another story: KWS moves to reintroduce species to their historical ranges. And of course, now we're talking about tourism as a theme on the question of the celebrations. I think it's important that we also focus much to see what it is that we're doing as a nation in that element. And that bit, we come on the top, where we have legislatures rally to rescue marginalized community, order state intervention. A story that has been captured on page 6 extensively, the top strip of the Star. And a national projects infrastructure fund to be unveiled this week, says President Ruto. Of course, remember that on the question of development, the government is committed, and some actually arguing that perhaps this would be, President William Ruto's strategy to gain the second term.
All right, see if smart people read the Star. Fresh, independent, different. Grab a copy at 60 Kenya shillings today if you're in Tanzania, 1,000 shillings, and Uganda 2,000 UGX.
Okay.
People Daily. Things fall apart. Restless nation. What's driving public frustration with Ruto's rule? This story is on page 4. They make mention of the key factors here. They see rising cost of living, increased public debt, Gen Z uprising, devolution crisis, security challenges, and of course, ethnic mobilization. Things fall apart. Of course, they continue with their analysis. People and politics is their slogan, and that's the main headline here. How Babu Owino's momentum is reshaping politics beyond Nyanza is another story on page 6. And on the top strip, why social media could shape Kenya's 2027 political battle.
Right.
Wamezieka zote kule juu on page 5. Facebook, even Pinterest, X, everything is there, Instagram. That's People Daily this morning.
Okay, the Business Daily, Vodacom to recoup Safaricom upfront dividend in 3 years. The multinational is also buying 15% stake in telco, and deals allow the firm to make up for its lending to Kenya. But Vodacom Group expects the advanced dividend it gave the government as part of the Safaricom share sales transactions to be repaid within 2-3 years, signaling expectations that the telco will increase the size of its cash distribution to shareholders in the short term. Is a story that is largely about business, and we understand that this is one of the biggest telcos that would be. So we're talking about what's happening in Tanzania in terms of Vodacom as well as in Safaricom, but largely the entire entity is captured there. Cusco compensation of SACCOs hits about 369 million with fresh pay, where the Kenya Union of Savings and Credit Cooperatives, that is Cusco, has issued compensation of about 152.4 million to SACCOs after offloading non-core assets and as well stepping up loan recoveries.
On the ticker, private sector loans growth hits 6.3% in November as rates fall, and now trader lows spot Pesa global ownership sit in the UK. Finally, special funds dilute dominance of MMFs. I
like the story here. That is very important, a valid question by Nderitu Mureithi. How is it that signs of economic recovery are everywhere? That is from Wajir to Nanyuki, but some citizens are still not feeling the effects, perhaps a majority of citizens, and I think that is the conversation captured on page 9. But of course, a good question that many have been asking while the government reports that we are growing in terms of the economy and we are steady. The question is it, or is it that why is it that Kenyans are still, struggling in terms of that? So the State of the Nation this morning, extensively looking at the politics of the day and stories like those ones that revolve around development and the growth of the economy. Former NC, former political analyst, as well as Arnold Maliba, Progress Plus Alliance member of the party, as well as Meshach Odede, political commentator, are the guests that we have this morning for that steady conversation. Make sure to join us.
Ranked after State of the Nation, will be hosting Davis Ongiro. This is the CEO Octagon Africa Kenya branch, on how MSMEs and informal workers can benefit from pension. That will be coming your way from 8 a.m. Then later on, we'll be having a conversation on tourism, wildlife, and mice with Norbert Talam, Director General, Tourism Regulatory Authority. You can see June Chepkemoi, that is the CEO Kenya Tourism Board, but she'll not be here with us this morning. Tuangalie cartoonists wanasema nini.
All right.
This is the Daily Nation. There's a battery here, ile battery ya kitambo, and they've labeled it
Ziko bado hata tunatumika tuseme tu.
Ziko? New political party.
Right.
Lakini we're seeing somebody here.
Mike Sonko.
Bas, amefungua chama mpya.
Amefungua chama mpya. Hii ndio itamrudisha kwa siasa vizuri vile inafaa. I think the way to go when you're getting into the space of politics lately, they say, is to make sure that you have your own party so that when you get to the negotiating table,
you have something.
Uko na sauti. All right.
That's the Daily Nation. The Standard.
East or west, home is best. Some gentlemen wearing a bit of what you would call Ingwe regalia, and the Luya unity is the conversation here, as well as the broad-based on the other end. This must be Boni Halwali.
Yes.
This must be him.
Yes, it is.
He was kicked out, and politics is not so kind to him. So perhaps he's going back to Mulembe Nation to say, politics is local.
East or west, home is best.
All right. Interesting to watch. It's not been easy a ride for him, but at the same time, I mean, it's a test for the broad-based government and largely the UDA party, because then, of course, it's not proper for you to lose some members, especially at this heated moment when we're headed to 2027.
Right. That's the Standard. This is the Star. A new campaign, a new slogan. And of course, 2022, bottom up, but 2027 we're talking about up bottom. Talking about Singapore and Malaysia. Is it a new campaign or a new slogan?
Okay.
That's the Star. Finally, People Daily.
Are we going to blame Sonko for all this now that Christmas is here? And the Christmas tree, beautiful as you would expect, but of course with a bit of concerns. A careless road accident, certainly you cannot blame the government for that. High cost of living, well, I don't know whether it is for us to blame the government or the president, so to speak. Crime, corrupt traffic police. And I think also on this festive season, we're reminded that we need to be careful. Perhaps that's what the edition or the cartoon edition is talking about. And of course, when Jiko there, dressed in what you would call the national colors, but asking these valid questions. It is important that we play our part, even as we call upon the government or the presidency to play its part.
All right. Speaking of festivities, and this comes at a I didn't realize that Nilieka, this caricature at the very far end, but it comes at a very, very good time. I want to plug you on something very, very interesting. Of course, as we wrap up this segment, there's only one place that feels like home for celebrations, and that's Fun City Gardens in Utawala. And they say here, fun meets family, and every moment, of course, becomes a memory. They offer corporate parties, school fun days, festive events, and magical family gatherings. You know, in this festive season, Odida, you really want to have fun, because festivities are all about fun, but you want to have it affordably, and you want to get value for money, and you want to have the most, and, you know, create great memories for your children. They're about to go back to school. There's no better place than the Fun City that is in Utawala. So 3 reasons you should visit the Fun City this weekend is that there's unlimited outdoor games only at 1,100. There's swimming only at 300 bob, and mascots and delicious food from about 150 shillings only. Going upwards. Very affordable.
This is a place to take your child.
Fun City.
Yes.
And a Fun City. Meanwhile, do interact with us on our socials, TV47 Kenya on Facebook and on YouTube, on X, at TV47 Digital. My handle on X is at @Ann_Odida. The hashtag is Morning Cafe TV47.
At Linda_Alela. Please make sure to interact with us. Looking at your comments.
All right. Asoka Matthew is watching live from Adungosi in Busia County. Good morning. And Benson Mumo anasema morning. Good morning to you, Benson. John Dirango anasema good morning. Good morning. Stay with us.
No more excuses. It's time to rise, grind, and own your mornings. Join Coach Shadrach Oma every Monday to Friday from 5:30 to 6 a.m. only on TV47. Full body workouts, zero equipment, maximum results. Start strong, stay strong. TV47 Fitness with Coach Shadrach only on TV47. Looking for the perfect way to kick off your weekend?
Pole. Hiyo ni salamu ya Mluya kabisa.
Tune in to Friday with Betty, the most exciting show on TV.
Betty, one tear gas. Betty, I don't know where this guy's going.
From the latest news and trends to unforgettable moments.
Hey, I mean, you know, nakubali.
Friday with Betty is your go-to show for a fabulous Friday night.
Theological, meteorologist. What is that word, Willis?
Tune in this and every Friday at 9 p.m. and let's make your Fridays unforgettable. Only on TV47. Enjoy uninterrupted live streaming of your favorite programs on TV 47 and Radio 47 on the go with our new mobile-friendly website. Experience the future of broadcasting. Visit www.tv47.digital or scan this QR code and stream your way to endless news and entertainment. Welcome to the home of untold stories.
This is Kenya's #1 talk show, Dr. Fureke tonight. My name is the Eagle himself. Dr. Fureke is my name.
We are flipping the script, but guess what? Or should I say, guess who is taking over tonight's show?
Ani wewe furahia umekaa na kasipuni. CP unit ni Punet.
Ni Punet.
Punet.
So you guys knew about...
Piga.
Sawa basi. Nasema, hata ungevi the whole time.
I don't want to go back to brokenness.
Never.
I just love the high life. Siwezi taka kuimagine ati nimesota.
You'll have to watch to find out. Tune in every Wednesday from 7:30 p.m.
Next time you need fresh lemon juice, microwave a lemon for 7 to 10 seconds. Then, roll the lemon back and forth under your palm on the counter. When you squeeze, you'll get more juice from the lemon with way less effort.
Start your day with Relationship Wednesday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. with Ann Odida. Dive deep into the dynamics of love, friendship, and family as we explore the stories that shape our connections. Then, satisfy your appetite with Tasty Wednesday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., where Anne serves up delicious recipes, cooking tips, and the latest food trends to inspire your next meal. Relationship Wednesday and Tasty Wednesday, every Wednesday, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., only on Morning Cafe.
Your nose alone won't always tell you if your eggs have gone bad. To find
The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights KNCHR in its State of Human Rights Report 2025 revealed that 57 extrajudicial deaths were recorded this year, many linked to security agencies.
The Commission documented 57 violations on the right to life.
The report also documented more than 600 cases of human rights violations, ranging from arbitrary arrests and torture to enforced disappearances. KNCHR noted that there were human rights violations in the recent by-elections and that social rights remain the most violated, underscoring the deepening struggles of ordinary citizens.
The Commission documented 3 deaths during the by-elections, with several documented cases of destruction of property, contrary to Article 41 of the Constitution of 2010.
Meanwhile, the Kenya Human Rights Commission KHRC, Civicas and Civic Freedoms Forum CFF have jointly launched a regional report exposing the fragile state of civic freedoms in Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania.
80% of the population, based on World Bank data, of African countries south of the Sahara are living in now the worst categories of countries in terms of civic space. and in terms of democratic space as well.
The report has underscored that without urgent action, the erosion of freedoms in Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania risks destabilizing the region and undermining citizens' trust in governance.
We must insist on strict adherence to constitutional limits on power. No leader should ever be allowed to personalize the state. No government should fear its own constitution. Exactly the things that are happening.
The joint report paints a sobering picture of civic space in East Africa, warning that transnational repression and deepening crackdown on dissent across borders is deepening across the region.
When we say that the people power movement is under attack, we're actually saying that Article 1 of the Constitution is under attack. So as we are dealing with the state repression, let us also deal with the enablers of the state repression.
Together, the two reports present a sobering assessment of Kenya's human rights landscape. Calls have been made for urgent reforms to strengthen accountability mechanisms, protection of civic actors, and uphold the rights enshrined in the Constitution.
All right, and it being International Human Rights Day, I think it's important that we just try to focus on that a bit, culminating the GBV days, the 16 days of activism, and then we now come to Human Rights Day. And as we celebrate this, I think it comes at a time when we have a lot of concerns. And as the story highlights, especially across the East African community, where we still have these violations of human rights activities happening so much so. And when you look at the reports, it is quite wanting, and therefore, begs the conversation, begs the question as to what really needs to be done so that we avoid all the rising cases of rights abuse. And the gentlemen that I had said we have on set this morning are here already, ready and set for the conversation. I think this conversation on human rights is critical, as of course for the country and basically across the East African community and the international stage at large. And therefore, allow me to introduce them as, of course, we get to hear their views on the concerns of human rights abuses across. We have Arnold Maliba. Arnold, thank you so much for creating time this morning to be with us here on Morning Cafe. Progress Plus Alliance, they call you. I don't know whether that's how it should be, but is a member, founder,
party
leader, and all that. And you're going to tell us what is this that is with parties, forming parties, that appears to be very lucrative, in as much as we appreciate that this is a multi-party state. And of course, we also have NC, political analyst. Thank you so much for creating time, as well as political commentator Meshach Odede. Gentlemen, thank you so much for creating time. It's good to see you guys again after some time. With, of course, the concern on human rights, we come to you, Meshach. How would you rate us, and what will it take for us to address this rise of rights abuse, as, of course, highlighted this based on data and statistics?
Thank you, Linda. I think we still have a lot to do with regards to human rights violation or abuse, as some people would call them. But I think, again, you see, sometimes we look like we're doing well as a country, but that is because maybe we are right in the middle of other countries which are far behind.
Right.
So when you try to compare yourself as a country with the countries that are in the neighborhood, you actually think you're doing so well with regards to ensuring there are a lot of human rights. But then when you now open up the horizon and look at the global picture, sometimes, again, you realize you have fallen or you have dropped in terms of ranking. So as a country, I think in the league where we are playing, we should actually be comparing ourselves to the best at the global level. We should actually look at the global picture and see which one of those countries are highly ranked and where are we compared to them, than looking at Tanzania, looking at Uganda, looking at the countries just we are bordering Somalia. That way we will always look great. That way we will always look best. That way we will feel like there's nothing else to be done.
Right.
But I think we still have a lot of work to be.
And Fomba, we tend to overlook the concerns of the economy, just say economy, social and cultural rights. We tend to overlook the questions of health and all that when we're talking about human rights and the abuses meted upon the people. And we focus much perhaps on, the democratic space and, just how we're allowed to freely express ourselves and all that. When you look at ourselves as a country, what really needs to be done so that we can be able to balance the equation, especially when it comes to this? Because when you look at the number of cases that are continue to be reported, it is one thing.
Thank you, Linda. The Constitution of Kenya 2010 is one of the most progressive constitutions in the world. That has been said by so many people. In particular, the provisions about the Bill of Rights is so unique and well detailed, extremely elaborate. It starts with the most critical one, Article 26, talks about the right to life. Right. That's the most important provision in the Constitution and in the Bill of Rights. But unfortunately, there are certain individuals within various institutions who do not adhere to the provisions of the Constitution, which is supposed to take care of all of us. For example, a person who has been arrested has rights well elaborated in Article 49. And that's why I believe that if everybody upheld or lived by the principles of our Constitution, then we'll not be having these rampant abuses of human rights. Because there's no one who is above the law. The other day, I was so much heartbroken when I saw Evans Ondieki breaking down when the issues around the disappearance of Mwenda Mbijiwe in 2021 came up. And for a very long time, Kenyans have been concerned about extrajudicial killings. And that is not necessarily attributed to one specific government, because we have seen those things happening from the time of independence, during Kenyatta's time, during Moi's time, and even during Kibaki's time. I've always mentioned about a friend of mine called Oluji Pio, who was killed in 2009, and nothing has come out in terms of justice up to date. Then I've also mentioned the issue of Mwenda Mbijiwe. So this has nothing specifically to do with a specific regime, but it's just a culture of bad manners among certain people. And that's why the institutions that are established are supposed to take responsibility and take to account people who are involved in abuses of human rights. And as you've stated, I've seen on one of the newspapers that talking about people who are negotiating sexual offenses out of court settlements,
yes,
which is not allowed, because remember the Njokindungu bill that became the Sexual Offences Act of 2006 was so detailed and so particular that it protected the rights of those people who are vulnerable in the society. So we cannot take back the gains that came through the Constitution and those ones that came with through the right statutes and start having those kinds of negotiations. And that's why, as a society, all of us have a responsibility to take care of each other, also ensure that we take part in providing socioeconomic rights. I've seen President William Ruto, in particular. We usually have times whenever there is a lot of rain, we have a lot of floods. They destroy people's lives. Immediately after floods, we have drought. People who are subjected to drought end up being subjected to floods again.
Yeah.
And that's why the introduction of dams, construction of dams, addresses some of the socio-economic rights that are provided for under Article 43 of the Constitution. So I think as a nation, we should always look at the things positively and look at the better things that we can do as opposed to dwelling on the negatives alone. And wherever there's a negative, then we need to work as a country in unison to ensure that we have a general direction that is progressive.
I appreciate that you are huge on working together, that there's need for government as well as security entities, the citizens, civil society to come together. But mostly, and maybe as we close on this matter, is it we operate in the style of water and paraffin. where you will see the civil society in a different world, the government in a different world, the citizens in a different world. I mean, just how then do we get to achieve this? Because we say that as a country, we probably have done well, and this is in relation to just meeting up the international treaty obligations. Of course, we were talking about the Maputo declarations and all that. But reality is that we seem not to be getting it right. What will it take, Arnold?
That's quite a complex question, but then probably we need to look at it from why exactly do we even have a day that is marking the Human Rights Day? Of course, it's got its history, or the background is actually from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights on 10th, I think, of December 1948. And this is when the world was trying to recalibrate and have a rules-based international order. Then, of course, there was the realization that you cannot have a rules-based international order if you do not have states that are also rules-based. But then where do you begin? You have to begin with the person. So, and this particular person has got some rights or entitlements that are universal, and therefore you're not going to launch war or come up with laws that degrade others. So there are universal human rights. So the UN then takes up that, because that is the foundation upon which this whole thing called the UN is actually built. There are so many things, people talk about wars and everything else, but the very base is actually human rights. So there are very many ways people have actually tried to work around. So let me begin with what is positive, at least in our space. There are three things generally that we use to talk about human rights working around. Number one, of course, we have got a very vibrant civil society. Nascent, yes, because most of what we have today is a civil society that has started regenerating in the last 10 years or so, after there was a serious purge as we went into the Hague. There was total disorientation of the civil society because at that particular time, I think the administration thought that it's the civil society that had done a lot of seeding for the Hague thing. So what we have is what I would call a nascent civil society, but it's still very vibrant. The other thing is elections, of course, periodic elections. Of course, elections will give you the window to correct the wrongs, to try voice up where things are not right. So that is actually a positive. Then the third is a legal framework. We've got a Bill of Rights in the Constitution, and that specifically is what makes Kenya's Constitution very progressive. So we have that, but then has that really taken care of the human rights situation in the country? Still today, there's the element of what I would call safety from the state. No Kenyan in this country, unless you are the political class of the day, are safe from the state. So safety from the state is still a big, big challenge. Of course, the human rights cut across from the duty bearers, being government, and then, of course, the people on this other side. And the whole idea of having government, by the way, is very basic. Government started so simple as a way of taking care of law and order, and then protecting the people against each other and against external force. But over time, if there has been anything that is actually constant, is an ever-growing government. Government sneaked into the economy. Before that, the government was never part and parcel of the economy. Government was simply about law and order. They got into the economy, they've gotten now into regulating and getting into people's business now. So the big government concept now is all over. So the safety, the component of safety from state is what we are worried about, because the government has got monopoly of violence. They've got much more than any other actor out there. So you are going to try make noise, but then you are being told these are the laws that govern us as a people here. And sometimes you do not even get help coming from outside. So as much as we have got a very vibrant constitution, we have got a population that fairly know their right, and we've got an environment that slightly gives you room to fight for your rights. We still are not doing very well, because if you look, it depends with the organization that is doing the ratings. We are not doing well, whether it is Civicus, whether it is the US State Department, whoever it is. You still have got a repressed setting. people are still disappearing. Like, for example, we are here very comfortable, yet we know that there are people who have been abducted in the past. Nothing was done about it actually when they were released. No one has actually been held to account. And that is where we are. So already that sends signals. So sometimes we are not so different from the neighbors that we laugh at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, interesting. And I think we save that conversation for other sessions or for other broadcasts because then, of course, reality is that we're not doing so well, but also we have to appreciate that we have made some strides. This is exclusive for you, Rodede, before we get into the space of politics. We are talking about Sea, and you have come in. I mean, I just heard him talk about Sea, and sounding so disappointed. And I wanted to know, why are you so disappointed of the education system in the country today?
Linda, I was just making a normal comment, any normal Kenyan.
And I mean, I asked that because then we see that there is a story that has been captured on this on page 2 of the Standard newspaper in relation to, you know, what is happening in the country as to the question of education, that candidates may never know their final marks in results to be released tomorrow, as well as schools will also not know their rankings nationally or within counties. And this is in relation to the Kenya Junior Secondary School Education Assessment that you know, 20%, as it's talked about, and the question of scores is that students who score 20% and below are in the lowest band, which is categorized as below expectation. And you know, reality is that people are clueless, including the parents of these students. They are clueless of what is going on. I stand corrected.
Yeah, I was just reading the story, of course, on the Standard page 2, and I'm looking at more than 1 million young children or students who will not know their results. And this is supposed to be a work of so many years. And then at one point, a small group of Kenyans or one person decides to bungle it. And then more than 1 million of our children are in that particular problem.
Right.
This tells how we, whether this whole education system is what we really needed or not. Because I still don't understand why we can't assess learning bit by bit, and by the time you are at the end, we only collect everything you've been able to do around that, and then put you, rank you to a particular place. Because again, it happened, I don't know during Fuamba and others what really happened, but it happened that sometimes in high school you had people who were ranking lowest throughout only to come and pass KCSE with flying colors from nowhere. And others,
maybe not from nowhere, maybe because they put up...
It is from nowhere because we can't find a trail. We can't find a trail. So
kutangulia sio kufika, they say.
No, those ones were not supposed to apply in those systems. But in all honesty, we need to just know that if Meshach is this good, it should be shown even in Form 1, Form 2, Form 3. It should be showing, even the progress should be showing. It can't be that the progress is going east and then in the final exam, final year, I am extremely in the west. It doesn't show that there was anything I was learning. So I think we still, much as we are battling with all this, there is still, again, like we're saying, on human rights, a lot to do. On education, actually education is even worse. The whole Africa, because it is only in Africa where we are still finding X. The things Mkoloni left us to find X. Class 1, find X. Form 4, you're still finding X. When in Japan, they are doing, they are comparing carburetors, this car and that car, how do we come up with a new model? Your age mates here are still busy finding X. I don't know what we do with X when we finally found X in life.
Well, a majority of people will tell you that perhaps it's been very difficult to find X after all.
But even if you do, you don't know what to do with X.
With X after that. All right, gentlemen, I won't allow you to. You want to say something on education?
Linda, you know, when we were growing up, we had a very different system, and we were so much proud about waiting for that closing day when you are declared.
This is the 844 system?
Yes, when you are declared that you're number one, or you got this number of marks, you get gifts, you get motivated to work harder. But nowadays...
You didn't experience the tension that comes with that as well, and that when even you're sitting for your examinations, you have police, you know, in uniform, and sometimes in, you know...
Maybe if you're performing well in class, you really...
Never got scared about
you really looked forward towards that day.
All right.
So that you know the motivation to work hard, you get committed to it. And again, through that progressive academic performance, it was very easy to determine the kind of career direction someone will take. And then the aspect of meritocracy will also be very clear. But interestingly, the new system seems not to have been understood by so many people.
But this is a system that seems to be helping us not to be in the business of finding X anymore.
But I also think the world is dynamic. And that's why we came up with this new system. And therefore, I think we've been trying to deal with teething problems. I believe that with time we'll be able to stabilize and have it work properly.
In favor of us.
At least your parents knew what to expect.
That this particular issue is actually much heavier than the time we are giving it, even the attention we're giving it. Because number one, let's start from this point. Democracy dies in darkness. It doesn't just apply to media alone. Try tell me how exactly we do not get to know who gets what, but somehow we see they are allocated schools. Once you make that particular process grey, Kenya is number one, of course, a member of the OGP, the Open Governance or Open Governments Partnership. Our constitution itself actually is very big on sunshine clauses, a right to information and knowing everything else. That particular approach, of course, that does not define the CBC system. That is just at the examining level and how they are placing pupils and students in different places. That will be challenged. We are not going to go so far with that because we as a people must know how you arrived at this particular student going to this particular school and the other one. So the people at the Ministry of Education should actually realize that, number one, we are a very litigious nation. Number one, the Constitution does not support that grey process they're actually telling us. You cannot tell us somehow that you don't need to know what you got. We will not tell you, but somehow we show up and then you are telling me I'm going to this school X. I will want to know as a parent, and even as a student, I've got a right. Because education is a right in Article 53, a standalone. It's also repeated in Article 43, as in 43, 53, of course, the Basic Learner Education Act and stuff. So that particular approach they've taken is one that will be defeated in court. You cannot obfuscate a process and expect that somehow we will say this is the new way of doing things. In this country, you cannot trust. We have got a trust deficiency. So you don't tell us that somehow people in the ministry are all of a sudden angels. And now I just trust them, trust the process. Then you show up, you are giving me a school that doesn't look... Meshach has already said that there are people who used to pass exams from nowhere. Now, how are we going? And you see, it applies in so many things where the government is playing. You realize, like, for example, even when people are going to forces, for example, you see somebody whom you know this guy cannot run. Somehow you find him in one of those forces. You know, this guy could not even run. But now but then they're saying that, number one, we are going to choose people according to physical fitness and stuff. This guy could not beat you on the track. He did not even beat you in class.
But he is physically...
He is not even as tall as you are. And so they put up this framework, but somehow people fall through that. So the people at the Ministry of Education should know actually that this particular process they picked is not going anywhere. It will be defeated in court because we must know. We are the country that has got very robust sunshine clauses. Whatever English they tell us, because how then do you guarantee quality control when everything else is done in darkness? That we as parents and students as the main stakeholders, should just trust a small clique and quote unquote whatever system. We know there is no system in this country that cannot be beaten. So whatever that particular process they've come up with is actually null and void. It's not going anywhere. Because how do even outsiders trust our system? Because if we are going to do transferability of, education is modular in that at this particular level, you can come out of this country and go to another one. And so how are we going to know that Fwamba did not probably use occult, as we're talking about something from nothing? The people that we're talking about, people who could not pass exams, but somehow, in the final exams...
I hope you're not implying that...
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying how do we not use that? So, in the long run, we are still... This is the first time we are having a transition from what now is junior primary, or rather junior secondary, to now proper high school. This thing will end up in court. Linda, you can expect that. We're going to cover that for most of January, and the process will be as contested as it gets out there. Because how do I trust that somehow you are being told go to school X and not the other one?
And that this is going to start, okay.
Remember, there is actually, as much as we want to run away from this, they're trying to tell us that, okay, we've leveled the playing field. That is a lie.
Okay.
There are centers of excellence in this country where you know that if I took my child to school X, sometimes schools are just about traditions.
Right.
Even if people didn't come up with the proper marks, the school tradition shapes people into certain, you can expect a certain type of person from a certain environment. So there's no way they're just telling you that just because you've come from CBC, now Alliance is no longer Alliance, you can feel comfortable to go to some school in the village because now Alliance is no longer Alliance. Okay. Those are jokes because there are some people who will find themselves there. And the best way to deal with this is to make the process as transparent as possible.
Right.
I know I've taken a lot of time, and the people at the ministry have advanced a lot of excuses as to why you will not know the results. But then somehow I am supposed to accept
whatever it is
the results, as in a verdict is passed that I will end up in this school, but I do not know how I ended up there. How do I appeal?
Wow. Good question, and of course we leave it open, but as you rightfully say, the probabilities of this, being challenged in court.
And it will be abused, so long as it's in darkness, if we don't know how it's being done. And how does it start? It starts by me knowing this is what I got, and that is how I ended up in this particular institution.
Right.
Because in darkness, that system will be abused. As much as they tell you, okay, we have got a computerized way, we have got a formula of going around.
Neither here.
My friend, now we know that we are Kenyans, and we were, as in, like for example, I am fairly an old person. I was born on Saturday, but it was not last Saturday. So you cannot tell me that because we have got a system somehow, we trust it. In this country, no. In a country where they tell you that a police officer must be this weight, and you meet some people who are literally hugging the ground in uniform and the crown, nah.
Okay.
That particular process must be open.
All right, and while we are not supposed to largely focus on individuals, I think on this one, we will look at Mike Sonko to be the person that takes us to the next bit of the conversation. That Mike Sonko, that is a former Nairobi governor, has formally returned to active politics. That is following the full registration of his new party. That is the National Economic Development Party, NEDP. The former county chief, who was impeached in 2020, has gone ahead to dismiss claims that he is a state project, insisting that his focus is on building a grassroots political movement driven by economic transformation. Apollo Kamau reports on a day that Sonko announced he will be heading to the Supreme Court to appeal his impeachment. Let's take a look at that story as it, of course, ushers us in to the next bit of the talk.
Former Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko has made a comeback to active politics after receiving approval from the Registrar of Political Parties to register his new outfit, the National Economic Development Party, NEDP, which he says is a movement targeting both the youth and the elderly in his quest to liberate ordinary Kenyans.
Hii ni mwanzo mpya kwa Wakenya. Tumechoka na zile vyama vya zamani. Sijui kila saa tunasikia chama gani. Since I was in nursery school, we are hearing of names who have been there for decades. Today, hii ni mwamko mpya. We have a party that I'm the interim party leader.
We stand here to celebrate this major accomplishment that gives the ordinary Kenyan a political party formed by Kenyans for Kenyans that is aimed at revolutionizing our politics and causing the next economic revolution in this country.
Sonko's new party, expected to ruffle feathers in Nairobi's competitive political landscape and parts of Ukambani, emerges amid questions over whether the former governor and MP is a state project intended to scatter the united opposition's plan to consolidate Nairobi against the broad-based government.
Our process for registering our party started way back in 2019, when I was still the governor of Nairobi, when Uhuru Kenyatta was still the president of the Republic of Kenya, when I was still a member, I think, of the Jubilee administration. So I think they are very wrong. And if at all I'm a project, then I'm a project of the great people of Kenya, and not anybody else's project.
Sonko, who was impeached in 2020, says he will return to the Supreme Court to appeal his removal from office, claiming he now has evidence, including affidavits, that former MCAs were coerced by the then President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration to oust him.
Affidavit of the move of the impeachment, Honorable Ogada. I've got the affidavit of Bernard Muturi was the speaker. The affidavit of Honorable Guyo, His Excellency Governor of Isiolo, he was the second of my impeachment. What walisema si tuliitwa in fact, they came to see me with their lawyers. Pole Sonko, haikuwa makosa yetu, umetusaidia sana, tumefanya kazi na wewe, but we were forced by the former deep state to fabricate lies to lie about you.
The return of Sonko, a philanthropist and renowned grassroots mobilizer, is expected to draw significant attention from both the United Opposition Alliance and the broad-based government as the race to 2027 takes shape.
I'm also having a problem with the Honorable Chief Justice. Walipeleka Chitembo nyumbani sababu aliongea kwa TV. Hata yeye ameongea kwa TV, ajipeleka nyumbani. It was heard within 24 hours, determined within the next 24 hours. Even a presidential petition does not work that way. So me, what I want is justice. Na nitaenda koti yote, whatever it takes to look for justice. Within 24 hours, my life ended, political life ended just like that.
Apul Kamau, TV47.
But did his political life end at all if he has brought on board this party, registered party for that matter? I mean, by the time it's getting to a point of a launch, it's clearly something that is well received. Get into politics, elected, impeached, go out there, set up a party, it's coming out so good, or even go to court first, and as the process is ongoing, you know, just go back and set up a party and you're popular all of a sudden. It looks like we're set for, you know, some bit of interesting times ahead in 2027, Fuamba.
Yeah, first of all, you know, our constitution is a main point of reference when we are talking about leadership. It's like a sacred book. It's like what GOtv used to refer to as the Popol Vuh, the book of the Mayas. So the constitution of Kenya clearly bars someone like Mike Sonko from appearing anywhere in leadership. You know, there is a purposive interpretation of the law, according to Article 259. Based on his impeachment as per Article 181 of the Constitution, automatically, Article 75 sub Article 3 bars him from holding any state office that is defined in Article 260 of the Constitution. So, in as much as there is no provision that bars him from being a political party leader, it is very clear that the purposive interpretation of the Constitution implies that the moment you are impeached, you are not supposed to be anywhere in public office. You are not supposed to be in a position whereby you are supposed to give direction to people of any form. So I think we should desist from this kind of jokes that come up with people who have been impeached. They do things in office, and through the established frameworks, they are impeached. Then they come back and through the back door and want to claim to be leaders. So for me, I think these are suckers. You know, Sonko is the king of Ipindire.
Okay.
We knew that. He's the one who came up with that word. So this is just another Kipindire. And if it's about going back to the Supreme Court to seek redress about his impeachment, it doesn't work. Because one of the best maxims of equity is that equity does not favor the indolent. It favors the vigilant. That since 2020, the time you were impeached, you want to go to the Supreme Court today to seek redress as an afterthought. It does not even work in law.
Interesting.
But I think
Charles Ndungu, just a bit, Charles Ndungu says, what does the Constitution say on a person impeached from office and their involvement in active politics? Sonko and Gachagua are among politicians prompting impunity. I really would have wished to go to...
By the way, Linda, before you go to Meshach or Arnold, by the way, I think we should go to the Supreme Court or to any constitutional law court to seek interpretation on whether someone who has been impeached even qualifies to hold a political party position.
There's a lot to that. Yeah. That's what I actually wanted to say.
You wanted to say.
Yes.
And yes, okay, let's
so,
come to you.
Section 13 of the Political Parties Act is very, very clear on what they call disqualification from holding office in a political party. So you cannot be an office holder in the governing council or even be a founding member of a political party if you cannot hold public office. So already, Section 13 of the Political Parties Act clearly bars somebody like Rigathi Gachagua, Mike Sonko, and any other person who has been removed from public office according to law. And at this particular point, it is important that the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties also comes out clear and states who can actually be a political party office holder and who cannot be, because we have got Section 13, and as far as we know, it's not suspended, it's not repealed. So technically, Rigathi Gachagua cannot be an office holder.
With a party that is very popular, that
in the registry
that has
not.
representatives.
In the registry, he is
elected.
not. So there is the de jure and then de facto.
Okay.
So legally, if you go to ORPP, Rigathi Gachagua is not even a member of DCP. Probably he's a member of DCP, but he's not an office holder. It will also be in error legally if ORPP has actually recorded Mike Sonko until a court of law pronounces itself on his case completely. Of course, he's not exhausted the appeal, but as it is, Mike Sonko stands impeached. The same way, Waititu could not hold any other office. And remember, Waititu is now also a party leader. You know, we are not talking about... So there are a number of impeached people who are party holders. You have got Waititu, who took over the Farmers' Party. You have got Rigathi Gachagua, and now you have got Sonko. Yet, Section 13 of the Political Parties Act is quite clear that you are disqualified from holding office, political party office, if you can't hold public office anywhere. So that is already settled. It will be then, of course, important for the RPP, the Register of Political Parties, to come clean on this. Because we see these guys showing up continuously, and then we are wondering, is the Political Parties Act suspended? Are we serious? Are we then moving forward or not? But be that as it may, of course, I've heard Mike Sonko say that his party is different, he needs new parties. Already, his party is not different, because we're already calling it the Mike Sonko party. Once you call it by a person, already, it looks like the others. There are very few parties that they are not about the honors. It's also just another personality cult that he's attempting to start, even though in law he shouldn't be there. But Mike Sonko raises a very important question. The issue of how the impeachment process, you know, impeachment is a political process. When you hear Fuamba speak about impeachment, he speaks of it as if we are impeaching people because they have committed treason and they've done these big things. The impeachment process is actually political. The threshold of impeachment has actually been brought so low, especially after the Kawira Mwangaza impeachment. The threshold is so low that literally any governor that will end up in the Senate should be impeached, unless on technical grounds that thing is not observed. Otherwise, if how the Senate handled Kawira Mwangaza's case is anything to go by, every person that ends up in the Senate should be impeached. That's just how low we've brought that particular process. But is it fair that you can actually, like, with just a single stroke, people might not like you, Linda, completely, for one reason or the other. So you come up and then we can fabricate some things that you are not even directly responsible for. An officer down there did something, but then we send you home. It speaks to one law that the Senate and let me just say Parliament has not really worked on that. It's called the Impeachment Procedure Bill. It's been, I think, in Parliament since 2018. It was supposed to lay a framework, a complete framework. I think it was done by the Senator for Nandi. Today, you do not know what system will end up impeaching you if, let me use the governors, for example. The others who are sent to committees, others are sent to what I call the lynching mob. You are given to the open house, where people lynch you and then they vote at night and send you home. So there is no proper removal procedure, the impeachment procedure bill, has been lying in the Senate for a long time. We need that taken care of so that then it's standardized. Somehow today, Linda, you come in, we decide, okay, the House feels like we are busy today, or we are small fry. The president spoke about Sokohuru. So Sokohuru, then we give you a small committee, it clears you, then you move on. Or you show up and everybody doesn't like you. I have worked in a political party. I have
balances.
Been,
okay. You still?
I still am, but I will tell you, sometimes we could actually fall out. We could fall out over business in a political setting. But to teach me a little fear of God, you then show up in a political party, cook up something, and then that is how you actually ascend home. And just simply that way, somebody's career is actually sent down the drain.
Impeachment
so Sonko
was put in our constitution.
Look at this. Even when the Jews were being killed in Germany, it was legal. Fwamba knows that. When the British were actually colonizing us, colonialism was actually legal. So saying that impeachment is in our constitution, when we are abusing it, it's not checks and balances, because the
separation of powers.
The impeachment as it's being done in this country,
is given to the legislature
impeachment
as a responsibility, and that's why it's a quasi-judicial body to take care of the impeachment.
Impeachment as is carried out in this country is actually a mob justice, an exercise.
But there are processes involved, so that by the time you're impeached, you have been subjected to all those processes. So you cannot say it's unfair when it has been subjected from various processes.
We violate the rights of so many people in the name of impeachment.
And because of those processes is why there are some people who have survived those impeachments and others have been impeached.
Well, of course, recently.
Look at this.
Because of those checks and balances.
Look at this.
So we cannot say that's absolutely unfair.
We are saying that the impeachment process and why the impeachment procedure bill has been in need speaks to a gap that exists, and legislation was supposed to fix that. You cannot explain how a Malala chaired committee clears Waiguru and then somehow another team lynches Kawira Mwangaza differently. It is not standardized, and whoever comes to justice must come with clean hands.
Well,
the president himself
is not, but now the voters take responsibility of the kind of people that they vote for. If the representative that you have given responsibility to take care of such kind of people.
Let's have some order.
Unfortunately, look at this.
Because you're raising very pertinent points.
Waititu's case, even politicians have rights. And we know, Fwamba knows this much better, that it could be for any other reason. It cannot be that, Linda, we clear you for the same mistakes that I am hanged for. That is not constitutional.
It's very difficult.
But Linda, these are our laws that we have put together.
It's not our laws.
And they have all checks and balances. For example, the legislators have been given responsibility to carry out those oversight roles, including impeachment, like what happened to Gachagua, Waititu, and Sonko.
Linda, probably you might not know, but Fwamba is actually a certified Rigathi Gachagua hater.
Who said that? Who said that? There is no hate in politics.
I watch him. He's here to speak for himself.
It's about,
I watch him every time.
It's about opinion.
I watch him.
It's about opinion.
I watch him.
And I'm just stating that
let's allow
impeachment was purposely put in our laws. So that every institution has its own role. And Parliament is structured to play that role. It is not,
think Parliament is just...
And the process does not involve one person.
It's a fair platform.
It involves many people. Parliament is a fair platform because you elect those people to represent you. So the moment they're impeaching someone, they're impeaching that person on behalf of the people they represent. So it is the country, it is the citizens who have impeached someone like Gachagua or Sonko or Waititu.
Fair enough. Let's allow I don't even know whether I have to ask a question.
So you cannot just say that it was biased or what,
We cannot...
Nyaribo survived
on technicalities.
And I mean, most of the people said it was basically politically instigated. I doubt if any impeachment process is not a political process.
Thank you. Thank you, Linda. That's a lot from Fwamba and Maliba. I think our
summarize.
Linda, if you don't regulate Maliba, he will speak forever.
But I agree, but at the same time, you must allow him to execute his point so that we can't otherwise.
And if you don't regulate Fwamba, he will interject forever.
All right.
So this is what I think. I think sometimes we mess up, especially in the African setup, when we keep borrowing things, and sometimes we don't go deep into it and even consider whether it is going to work for us as Africa.
Right.
largely our constitution is held as one of the best, yes. But again, we also are alive to the fact that a big part of our constitution was borrowed from other countries. And sometimes we went to, we got mixed up because the imagination were to even have upper house, lower house, and all those kind of shenanigans, which we ended up with none. And now the National Assembly ended up calling themselves upper house by force and all that kind of things. But coming back to impeachment, I personally think there are still loopholes, especially when you talk about Senate, because the Senate are, number one, senators from the DNA of this constitution since its promulgation in 2010.
Right.
After the first term of governors of devolution, all the senators felt like they missed the right spot. And so every senator wanted to be a governor at the end of the day. And so tell me, legally it's okay, the process is okay, but tell me how these people will remain impartial when a governor is brought to them for impeachment.
Okay.
Considering that quite a number of them had issues, and they felt like next term, you realized the second term of devolution, almost half of senators were going to run for governor, and the third one, the third devolution term as well. So that again talks about whether they are able to actually take care of their duty as senators. Because, for example, if you go to the court of law today and the Supreme Court judge wants to be president or wants to be anything, sometimes we are human beings. It takes away the objectivity by which you want to conduct this process. So one, I see a loophole there. Number two, the level of MCS that we have, many times again, they are supposed to do that oversight, but some of them have not done it as their role of oversight. Some of them have done it as a vendetta. Either the governor refused to do this to us, we were supposed to go to Israel, the governor refused to sign, we were supposed to go for this benchmarking, the governor did this, the governor is not listening to us, and all those kind. And at the end of the day, some gets impeached. But you wonder, the question is, after getting impeached, then what? Because again, I am not sure, but these two gentlemen will help me. When you get impeached, for how long do you stay out there? Because even if I am a man who stole and I'm taken to court, the court will finally say I will serve 10 days in jail. And after 10 days, I am cleared. I am not, it can't be that I'm a criminal forever.
Because once impeached, justice, Article 75, Sub-Article 3, because it's justice.
But is that justice?
Is that fair?
But
is
then,
that fair?
There are different provisions.
You see,
but
I hope you are getting
in the Economic Crimes Act.
And you make a lot of sense.
Crimes
The
Act,
question is what it is that FOMBA says. Ultimately, there is the law that would guide us on this. If you are talking about it being a question of justice, then perhaps we need to adjust the laws. And
what does the law say when you get impeached?
That is
it
what
forever, for the rest of your life?
For the law, it is finished.
Unless it is adjusted.
But if you are charged in a criminal court and you are found culpable under the Economic Crimes Act, you'll be out for 10 years and then have a comeback. But if it's impeachment, the effect of impeachment is applied in Chapter 6 of the Constitution.
Integrity.
So here is the catch.
Okay.
So here is the catch.
And that's why, because we were looking forward towards having a clean country. And that's the reason as to why you are supposed to be an example to other people who might want to seek leadership in order to plunder.
Right.
Please
don't interject some more.
I was to drive
making a point.
I was to come to this point. So here is the catch. For the allegations which they call quasi-judicial, meaning you are not, it is not proven beyond reasonable doubt that you actually stole money in the county or do that. But because it is a political process, politically, you are viewed as you messed up or this and that. And then you are impeached, and now you are condemned for the rest of your life. You cannot hold any political office. Then we have a 2017 election, which Maraga and the entire judiciary says this election was not conducted in accordance with the law. And then this election is null and void. But no one takes responsibility until today, and there the country spent about 50 billion or thereabout. Then on the other side, somebody has been impeached for misappropriation of 200,000, 1 million or 2 million. Where is justice for in this impeachment process?
Meshach has a very good point, and I think I should take a step and improve those laws by invoking Article 119, petition Parliament to implement such a law.
There's already a law.
Includes those checks and balances. But back to my point, is that we are a country of institutions.
Can I just inform you on that slightly?
Yes.
When I spoke about the impeachment procedure bill that has been in Parliament, I think from 2018, it's a the Senate.
Yes.
It's a Cherargei bill. It was supposed to address the issues we are raising here. But somehow, like those laws that we know, if they come in place, they will actually tie our hands. Somehow it's not moved. The issues we raise here are actually at the heart of the Bill of Rights. So people have been impeached simply because the MCAs and somebody else probably in the county doesn't like you. You come here, and somehow the national government of the day has got support, or the party does not like you. What we are saying is that the impeachment process largely has become a lynching process, a mob justice process.
Okay.
And as much, but they do not make this thing about an individual you might not like. The problem with that is this, that in the long run, we are not going to attract talent when it comes to governorship. You know, like for example, somehow, and I don't want to cast aspersions on the current commissioners at IBC, but IBC is no longer attracting talent because however brilliant you take a guy there, if I don't like the results, I call them thieves immediately. So somehow, if we continue with this new trajectory that we've picked around impeachment of governors, is that in the long run, people will actually say, if I run once and then I'm impeached, my life is ended. So therefore, we will not attract talent. We will end up having mediocre people. And then what do we do with that? Is that then we domesticate mediocrity and incompetence. Because for me to actually work well will be, I have to give MCAs what they need. If the senator is a loudmouth, I have to ensure that the senator gets whatever they want. I bribe everybody else so that I'm not impeached, so that then after my life as a governor, I can then become something else. But is it true that governors are committing crimes that are not committed elsewhere? Most of the governors are actually impeached on peripheral issues. Let me say this. Well, let me speak about one person as an example. Rigathi Gachagua was impeached specifically for the shares issue, right?
Article 10. Article 10.
Yes.
Yeah. Article 10 is vast. It's thrown around for so many reasons.
Yes.
Yeah. So, as around the national values and whatever. Rigathi Gachagua was impeached for saying what the president does. As in, the president practices the business of shares. But Rigathi Gachagua was preaching the gospel of shares. The president is a living practitioner of the gospel of shares. Rigathi was actually impeached for preaching the gospel of ethnicity. The president, if you look at his appointments, they are as tribal as they get there, very unfair. So what the president practices, and Rigathi Gachagua was preaching, so we lynched a man for preaching a gospel
on
which his boss.
Counts.
We lynched him, of course, for several accounts, but I'm saying partly the biggest one. Rigathi Gachagua was the apostle of shares, the politics of shares. But the president, as the supreme god of the political ethnicity, look at how parastatals are shared out. Look at how lucrative positions in this country are actually shared out. You can actually, you know, we are not stupid, we are not headless. We see it. You look at the energy sector, you look at wherever there is money. Any lucrative and plum job in this country has been given to the president's friends or the people from his tribe. So what the president practices, Rigathi was impeached for preaching the same gospel. So literally, I know when it comes to sin, it's not just a matter of saying it. even when you think about it. This is a person who has not thought about it. He has done it, but he is okay. Here is a man who's preaching that gospel, then he is impeached.
I am curious.
Aliba was just looking for an opportunity.
You've triggered our mind and the minds of many.
No, I'm not defending Gachagua. I am not a member of.
Now I'll have to call the order. Fomba, we're coming to you.
This one is actually very passionate.
We are coming to you. You seem to understand the law rather too well on the question of impeachment. Just what does it take to trigger that conversation of an impeachment? Is it a preserve of those ones that are politicians, or even a kawaida Kenyan can?
You see, our constitution is already clear and has got so many checks and balances to ensure that there is no injustice. There's no perfect system. But you see, right from impeachment, talk about governors, for example. If you have some semi-literate MCAs impeaching you based on you refusing to sign a trip for them to Israel or anywhere else to do benchmarking, then you have your day at the Senate to have your own engagement with the Senate, defend yourself, and there are those ones who have successfully defended themselves. If there is anything trivial that you are being accused against, then the Senate, based on their own judgment, will exonerate you from blame. If you are found culpable, then that's it. And as I said earlier, the Senate or the National Assembly represent the people. The moment we've decided that so-and-so is representing us at the Senate, they go to vote. And when they vote, they are voting on behalf of the citizens. So since we are a democratic country, the moment those votes go against you, it means the country is the one that has impeached you. The citizens have impeached you through their representatives as per Article 1 of the Constitution, because we can exercise our sovereignty directly or indirectly. So we exercise through our representatives to impeach those people who violated the Constitution. And it's one framework that works for us, because we said 2010 Constitution is progressive. It moved us from where people were not accountable for their things, and right now there's some accountability. So if there is any initiative that someone would want to go and improve the laws, then it's open, because the Constitution itself also provides for that. And laws are progressive. We are not static. We can keep on improving, but we cannot discard the system that we already have, because it is serving us. And it's not a one-man show. Remember, if people go to, if an impeached subject,
the president
a person who is being impeached appears before the Senate or the National Assembly, is subjected to a process. Is subjected to a process. And this process is given to the legislature, because it's also a separation of powers. You cannot be tried under the judiciary when you have committed a democratic issue that is handled by the legislature. So there was wisdom behind separating those opportunities. Like if you are in the executive, the legislature can do oversight.
Just to inform him, the president a lot of times says the truth by mistake, but sometimes even a broken clock can be right. When the president says that he is a raw consumer of intelligence, he is right, because literally NIS reports to him. When the president says that the Senate ni soko huru, Parliament ni soko huru, as in, how will we really not believe the president when he says that? So he even said that some, I think governor, I don't want to mention the county, I think paid 150 million or something like that to the Senate when he was about to be impeached. What we are simply
those
saying...
Those are your representatives. You voted for them.
We are talking about the president here.
If you voted for those MPs, they're representing you.
This is a fallacy.
They're representing
This is a fallacy because he says, Linda, I actually need to tell him, Fombat brings here a fallacy where in one instance, what the MPs do, it is the people who have done. And in places where we actually point out that the MPs are wrong, he then now blames us.
If we are saying that the laws are supposed to be improved, then initiate processes of ensuring that these people who are corrupt are held accountable.
Cannot do justice to the conversation we are having and cannot take the country forward.
And because we have got to do justice.
Because when people went to Parliament last year, hadn't the same Parliament told us a few days that the bill was okay? When the president said that he had actually discarded the thing,
represent you.
They gave him a standing ovation.
They represent you.
It cannot be that they are right in one instance and then the next one you are blaming us. That is not how you do debates.
Interesting. As we come to a close on this matter, just what is this lucrative about having a political party? I would have wished for him to be the person answering that now that he heads a political party, but I will take it back to you, Misha Kodede. I know ours is a multi-party system for sure, and that is one thing that we appreciate and celebrate. But really, left, right, and center parties and all that, is it because then they need to go back to the negotiating table and a party? When you have a party, it's actually much better for you to do that, or what exactly is this about, parties?
Thank you, Linda. This is just another many abuses we have on our constitution. When it is said it is a free space and you can register your party, then everybody goes and register a party, and you actually don't know. Some of them are actually proper and have got idea of what they want to do and how they want to do it. But just like the NGOs, we now register foundations everywhere, just like the political parties are also registered. Right now, every member of parliament, every political figure is actually angling to register a foundation, Mesha Kodede Foundation, and all those. In the days when I grew up, foundations were actually registered by mostly businessmen who knew they were making money as a corporate, and the CSR will be used in the foundation. So it was proper having you're a business mongol, and whatever you get out of this business as a profit, you plow into the foundation to actually support communities. But now we register foundation and then we start asking you, can you donate? Can you donate? Can you donate? And this is what we also do with political parties. And I think what brought this is the political party funding, if you ask me. Most likely, you would want to have 5 MCAs and 1 member of parliament, and you qualify for some money. Linda, even if it is just 5 million.
But even if you qualify for this, you have to admit that it's very expensive to run a party. And Maliba will tell you.
It is not expensive to
run a party. It is affordable.
It is extremely expensive. Otherwise,
it's an investment. They have converted parties into business kiosks.
Okay.
You look at the people who want to get back to politics through the back door, like Gachagua. Gachagua opened a kiosk so that he gets back to
that expensive, then so many people would not be running those politics.
So it's a
there are more than 100
There are business initiatives for some people. There are people who genuinely want to advance democracy through political parties.
Can we hear from the horse's mouth
and
make it 30 seconds so that we
I want to believe that Maliba's party,
is a money-minting party.
Please meant to advance the democratic.
Gentlemen, we have to have some order. Otherwise, no one is going to hear what we're talking about.
But unfortunately,
please control.
Hold it. Forba, hold it. I'll come to you.
Coming up with these initiatives.
Forba, I'll come to you. He's the host here. Let's allow him say.
Allow me to actually give them
1 minute
free information.
1 minute.
Number one, until yesterday, we only had 91 fully registered parties because DCP was the last party to be fully registered.
Okay.
And then now, with
Mike Sonko,
NDEP, or rather NEDP, NEDP party, now that makes it 92 fully registered parties.
Okay.
Now, those are not very many parties for a country that has got
50 million?
About 60 million people around that. Number two, it's easy for people seated outside here to tell you that it's easy to register and run a party. It's not. Even with those 91, because how you register a political party is extremely, extremely difficult. Apart from the usual stuff about looking for a name. But then do you know why people have got very funny names? Because even finding a name is totally impossible, finding a simple. That process is so difficult that almost 90% of all the people who start registration of parties never complete the process. There are so many people who have stopped at the provisional registration. They never get to full registration. Over and above, all political parties must be national. You must at least have 24 offices across the country, branded fully, with the people there. You must also have at least 1,000 members. Now, it looks so easy, but since I am a long-time political animal, I'll tell you for free. There are 2 political parties in this country that have got almost 87% of all members in the system. There's a system called IPPMS, the Integrated Political Parties Management System.
Okay.
UDA and ODM have got almost 80% of all Kenyans in political parties. So you will pick Fuamba here, you find he is in a party. Getting that required statutory 1,000 members is so difficult. It's not like how you will register an NGO or a CB. Otherwise, we will actually have more because we've got as many political opinions as possible. But why are political parties important? Because whereas political party system is not perfect, it is actually been tried, and so far it's the best way of organizing our politics. You also have got, the law also allows independent.
You had 1 minute.
Yeah, people can actually run as an independent.
Right.
And we see exactly how people who've gone as independent, especially when you are a governor, how they get beaten up.
Yeah.
So the political party system, just as democracy, is not the best. But then there is no other better way of organizing our politics unless then you are going the military way, which then we have got a military council that is then looking over people or those religious councils that run some countries. So for a democratic setting, you actually have to have a political party. In the US, there are thousands of political parties, thousands. We only talk of 2. So we'd rather have as many political parties as possible and then allow the fittest and the ones that are so robust to actually take over. Instead of talking about having so many parties, we have got less parties. It's so difficult because, Linda, technically you have got 72 colors in this country. You cannot have a color combination that looks like the other one. Yet, scientifically, you can have 10 million colors, but technically you only have got 72 colors. It looks like it's so small, but we are not going to get a party when your color looks like any other.
All right.
So it's easy for these guys to run and talk about here. The reason why now today, long time ago when I worked in political parties led by other people, I always thought that they are not running political parties well, they are not doing fair. Until you try to run and register a political party of your own.
And hence my question, what is this that
and by the way,
get you wanting to be
I needed to quantify this.
With all this difficulty?
Because ideologically, you have got this ideological thinking that you have, and you think that for the next phase of our governance, this is the kind of software that is required. You might not be in a position to force that in a political party that you are working in or you are a member of, especially when you are not at the core. Or sometimes you propose, but the leadership has got its own way of looking at it. But I needed to finish.
No.
Let me finish by cost.
I'm beginning to believe what Wamba told me.
Linda, cost is important. Today, unless you are extremely popular, you cannot register a party if you do not have, you are not ready to lose at least 10 million shillings.
So you lost 10 million?
I am saying, if you're not willing to, automatically it's much more than that.
Linda, this was my point as I was going to finish.
Yeah.
Tell me how different these political parties are from the explanation Maliba has given. From what we see in religion, the religious madness in this country. I am coming to the church, but then because pastor has said 1 or 2 that I don't agree with, I'm going to open my church. Or if I have felt like I have grown enough, I cannot be junior pastor anymore, I want to be senior pastor, I'm opening my church, and then I name it blah, 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 a whole sentence. Is this not the same way? Because if you know you are right, how is it possible to convince 60 million Kenyans, but you can't convince maybe a political party leadership of 10 people who probably sits as central committee, who makes serious decision on behalf of that party? You can't convince those 10 people that your idea is the greatest. But you are going full throttle with 10 million plus, and all those processes to register a party to convince 60 million Kenyans, and you think that is easier than convincing 10 people who are in the helm of party leadership. Tell me how that makes sense.
I will
close the debate.
Linda,
let's allow for former to close
society,
it. Yes.
And I appreciate the fact that every citizen is entitled to be a member of a political party, as by the provisions of Article 38 of the Constitution. Those are political rights. But unfortunately, there are some individuals who have been written off as far as the political leadership of this country is concerned. And in the name of them trying to get back into leadership through the back door, they're coming up with these initiatives of forming political parties. Those are just some political games trying to get back into leadership through the back door. But owning a party or organizing, let me not talk about ownership because it's supposed to be a democratic institution. Having a party or being a member of a party or being a leader in a party, like I've seen my friend Ben Murwa is the Secretary General of that new party, is a good thing. Is a good thing for as long as your intentions are towards advancing the democratic gains of the country. And I believe Maliba's party stands for that. I want to believe so. And for as long as that's the objective, then there's no problem with somebody coming up with a political party or organizing or mobilizing people to rally behind them.
Maliba,
Number one, Article
we have to
38.
close on that. And I'm surprised
Kindly.
that this gentleman you have been with on set a couple of times, you have not even sold your agenda to them.
Let me start with this, Linda. It is actually a political right. Article 38 of the Constitution allows us to form and be members of any political party.
Yes.
So you do not then question the right of any Kenyan. Even if, Linda, you started Linda and Daughter's political party, if RGC, if RPP decides to actually grant you registration, you have a right. And you see, you cannot compare the religious freedoms and the political freedom. There's a reason why they are separate. Here, my friend Meshach, for example, worships on Saturday. I come from the school of thought, the religious school of thought, that is madness. But he has a right to worship on Saturday the way he does. So if I started questioning him based on that, really we will start fighting and I will be trampling on his rights.
Yes.
But somehow when it comes to political parties, we only have got 92 political parties as of yesterday. We've got fully registered parties, 92 only. And then these guys are weeping here as if we have got as many as CBOs. They are few, yet these guys cannot count for you 10 political parties. They don't know. Because the business of running a political party is difficult. Because the business of governing is not as easy as people want to run around with. So when you say that we hope they are about that, the process of registering a political party is as national as it goes. You have to have a constitution that is actually national. RPP will take you through so many rounds until it actually gets there. You have to go there and defend your ideology. And you know, we have got as many ideologies as our nurses, as in everybody has, so long as it's in the constitution, it is a right. We should not. In fact, the political parties regime is constricting. They've made it so difficult for people to democratically be able to exercise Article 38. If we were real, we will not be having the kind of restrictions RPP and Parliament have done. To ensure that registration of a political party is difficult. So it's much harder than it should be. To enjoy Article 38, we need to actually make it much easier. It's not easy. That is why not everyone is making it.
And in the spirit of multipartism, we have extended it further.
The fact that we can't count 10, is that not good reason enough not to have them?
It's actually a problem. It is a problem.
If we can't even count 10,
Let's talk about coalition.
If I'm the Kenyan
in this
who is
era of coalition,
discussing politics and I can't count more than 10.
Listen to this, Mesha.
It is a problem, a big one.
And this advances the conversation to that level of coalitions, and that we are at a state where, you know, coalitions go more than, you know, individual parties. And therefore, I would actually love to invite him again, but of course we come to this conversation first on the question of coalitions and what it is that the president is doing right now, and basically the united opposition. Somebody says that we might not need to look far. We still have the options for 2027 in the broad-based government, basically the government of the day, and also the united opposition. Do you suppose it is the case? Because then he will be telling us whether he intends to have his party under a certain coalition of an umbrella, or maybe his party is already under a certain coalition or a certain arrangement with other parties.
The truth is, since 2002, we ushered ourselves into a new setup. And there is never going to be an election in this country anytime soon when one political party will go to the ballot alone and win government. It is always going to be coalition, and that is obvious. Even in 2027, those coalitions are beginning to form now. So just like everybody else have got the right to form political parties or join political parties, the same right applies for those political parties to be part of whichever coalition. They call them like-minded parties. And so it is a lie if anybody says my party or this party is too popular and can go all the way alone to the ballot and win election in this country. Right now, it has to be coalition with other parties. And so that is basically what the president is alive to. He's trying to ensure that whatever broad-based arrangement under the 10 points agenda does not end in 2027 as it was presented to Kenyans. Because before the late Prime Minister Raila Odinga left, the conversation and the position had always been we are in arrangement of broad-based, and we are working until 2027 between ODM and UDA and other parties within the Kenya Kwanza. So according to the state of things, it is clear and it is seen. The president is trying to ensure that broad-based does not end in 2027, and the broad-based gives birth to a coalition that can help him get enough votes to get his second term. That is what is going on in his corner. And on this other side, there are gentlemen and lady. I don't know whether there are two, but still we only know one, lady and gentleman, who are coming up with united opposition. How united, we still don't know, because there are some extreme figures there. You know, Kalonzo is extremely a gentleman, while Rigathi is extremely on the opposite, but still claiming they are deeply united. And sometimes it makes Kalonzo look weird and funny. For example, the other time when Rigiji went to celebrate in Kariobangi, and he says, we have agreed with Wiper and Nairobi is ours. Our people are the businessmen and women in this city. Then Kalonzo goes to Cumberland and he doesn't know what to tell his people, and he says, there are some people who are trying to create rift between me and Rigiji. And it is Rigiji who said. So I am seeing two extreme far-end people who are telling Kenyans they are deeply united, and you wonder how united is
the
this
united
union.
Opposition. But of course, we also are wondering how united it is that ODM as well as, UDA are, because of course there are some new intrigues coming into this. And as we come to a close, just how united and how important is it for the president to ensure that he brings on board a lot of many other parties? Because as it stands, they say in the mountain, he's in the business of playing divide and rule.
Linda, you said it correctly, that coalitions will come together on the basis of like-mindedness. And I've seen the great divide between the two coalitions. If you look at what the president is trying to put together, it's something that is based on reaching out to all citizens to feel part and parcel of the government, and has been incorporating all parts of the country into his development program. It is juxtaposed against what the so-called united opposition say. I call it, the other day I said that, and Honorable Kirwa was here, he didn't like it. But it is so-called because it's not truly united.
Right.
Because you see the agenda, like your leader has clearly stated. The other day, Gachagua went on TV and said that he'll take 16 parliamentary seats in Nairobi, forgetting that Nairobi is cosmopolitan. Of course, he was repeating the same things that caused him to be impeached as by the provisions of Article 10 of the Constitution of Kenya about inclusivity. In fact, if I made a call to Mutuse today, I would request him to make another impeachment against Gachagua because of such kind of utterances. We need to have a country that is all-inclusive. And therefore, the united opposition does not have a very clear agenda. The other day, I even asked why. He mentioned 16 and said he will donate 1 to Kalonzo. He did not even have a mention of my former boss, Honorable Eugene Wamalwa, who happens to be part of their team, the head of DAPK.
Right.
So, and the Luya community in particular in this city has a very big chunk in terms of percentages. So that means that automatically, as far as that so-called united opposition is concerned, the Luya community is totally locked out. And that's why they find space under the arrangement that the President William Ruto is trying to put in place towards 2027.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. Maliba, it has to be 30 seconds.
Well, it can't be 30.
I
am the only party leader on this particular
It's 30 seconds or nothing.
So the producer must actually ensure that money
30 seconds or nothing.
to ensure that I don't speak. Anyway, quickly. Linda, the political conversation in this country is rigged. The narrative that we have is actually a scam. That somehow the construct is that we have to choose between, it's either William Ruto or the Gachagua-led coalition. Do you know how that is a false dilemma fallacy? That in a country where you have got at least 2 million people who can actually qualify to become president, we are only being told. You know, that is...
By who now?
In logic. No, it's been framed.
Okay.
It's been framed, number one, by the dominant political player, and the media has actually egged on. Until you find people who Kenyans might be educated, but the only place they look totally helpless and illiterate is when it comes to political education.
Is your party presidential candidate?
That somehow As a country, people are being told, including Meshach here, a man who's actually traveled, are telling you, now if we don't give William Ruto, the other side is actually, we do not have two sides only. The Constitution does not provide two sides only. But the political narrative and the environment has created a duopoly, not closed. It is a duopoly and it's a narrative that people somehow are being made to think. Number one, Rigathi Gachagua is not even a presidential candidate. He cannot even run. But somehow all of us are running a narrative that now we have got William Ruto on the other side, and now we have got Gachagua on the other side. What do we have? They are giving us an option, somehow in our mind. We've been rigged to...
Is it not the business of the alternative voices to come in and sell the agenda?
And so that is the place where the media comes in.
We are closing.
I wouldn't understand where men who are educated like this one actually pushing that narrative. It's called a false dilemma, that all of a sudden Kenyans have got to choose between William Ruto, whom I will actually call the big devil,
Maliba, we have to close.
Rigathi Gachagua, who is the deputy big devil. It's not true that this country has got to choose between those two.
I will allow you a chance, and I think Fomba has asked you a very pertinent question. Is your party fronting a presidential candidate?
There is even a third, there is the third, the third alliance, there's an alternative particular side. So we cannot limit the choice and brainwash Kenyans that we're either choosing William Ruto or Rigathi Gachagua. That is a lie. That is a spin. And these are the educated people. These are the educated people.
Imagine, gentlemen, thank you so much. Let us remind you that the festive season is here, and the Fun City Gardens in Utawala welcomes you to great deals, birthday parties, indoor games, and all that. You need to book your ticket right now, or you need to book your space right now so that you go and get the best of fun on this festive season. We're talking about, you know, restaurant and amusement park, venue for events, and so much more that you can get there. Unlimited outdoor games only at 1,100, swimming only at 300 bob, and mascots and delicious food from 100 all the way up. So don't miss out on this great chance to make your family happy, to make your children happy, to make merry on these festivities. Thank you so much for always keeping it TV47. I have to pave way for Odida. My name is Linda Alela, appreciating my guests and you back at home for the immense feedback. Do have yourself a lovely, lovely Wednesday.